All right, so here we have a brand new, completely clean Unity project for our game Fireball that we're going to be making. Here you can see the file name at the top, the project name rather, and you can see the scene name. More on that later. So quick orientation here. You've got basically some tools and buttons across the top. And then you've got all these tabs: hierarchy, scene, game, asset store. You've got an inspector tab. You've got project and console. All of these things are movable. So that's the first thing that you need to know about this. I can grab my console tab and drag it out of there and put it up here in the same window with my scene and game and all these other tabs. Or I can kind of like pull that out of there and stick it in between two of that. I can make another window for to hold this tab. And here's one of the most important things that you guys need to know about this is if you lose, if I close this tab and all of a sudden I need my console tab, but it's gone, you can find those again by going to the window menu up here, and all those tabs are available in this general. So I can just go back to my console tab. And there it is. So I can just grab it out of this completely separate window and drop it right back where I had it in the first place. That might be a little bit complicated for you if you're a beginner and you're not sure what you need or what was missing. Maybe you don't know what the inspector tab is over here, but all of a sudden the whole side of it there's something missing over here and I don't even know what it is. Notice this panel, this button in the top right corner. It says default right here. This is your layouts. So if you just go back to the default layout, it will put all the tabs back the way that it is when you open a nice clean new session. So if you've got some different options here as well. I can go to a 2x3, which puts different panels in a different place. The 4 split. Notice we have we've got 4 scene tabs. So you can get some crazy stuff happening here. But if you're lost, easiest thing to do is just go right back to the default setting. And this should put you in a place where you're relatively comfortable. The quick tour of this is that you're going to need to know what the difference, especially between the scene tab and the game tab. They're kind of the same, and yet they're completely different. So the game tab shows you what your game is going to look like when somebody actually plays it. This is super important because this is the preview of what your game actually is going to have happen. When you hit the play button on your game up here, then you can actually play the game in here. So that's kind of important. You cannot manipulate your game. You cannot build your game in the game window. This is where it plays. If you want to build your game, you have to switch to the scene tab. It can look a lot the same between what the scene tab and the game tab is showing you. But over here in the scene tab, you can make your game. And over here in the game tab, you can play your game. Super important to remember the difference there. Then we have our hierarchy tab over on this side. Notice I can collapse the objects that are in here. So we have a sample scene loaded up. Notice we have a scene folder down here. I'll come back to this in a minute. This scene file right here is what we are looking at up here. This is the scene. Think of it like it's a level. If you've got a game that's got lots of different levels, then each one of those is probably going to be a different scene file. If you've got a big open world Skyrim kind of a thing, you might have a particular scene that is inside a castle. And so it loads the new scene as you go through the door into the castle. It pauses for a moment and loads the new scene. Everything that's in the scene will be shown in the hierarchy tab up here. So at the moment, this is a brand new Unity project, and we don't have anything in here yet. So all we have is the main camera that shows the camera is what determines what actually gets shown on the player's display when he plays the game. The directional light already built in so that we can actually see things. If there's no light source in your scene, then you won't be able to see things. So it comes automatically with those. As you add things like a player, an enemy, a floor, a wall, fireballs, all trees, and whatever else, all of those things are going to show up in your hierarchy, and we'll explain a lot more about the hierarchy as we go. Whatever you have selected, either in the scene view or in the hierarchy panel over here is going to have all of its details listed for you in the inspector tab. Over here in the inspector tab, notice that my main camera has several different components. It's got a transform component. It has a camera component. It has an audio listener component. Each one of these different squares is its own component. And you can add some components to change its functionality, add functionality. I could get rid of things. The transform is going to be super important. That describes where it is positioned in space, where it's pointed. Is it rotated this way, that way? Is it scaled? Is the camera going to be bigger or smaller? I'm not sure actually if the camera changes functionality if you make it bigger or smaller, but the scale is the size of the thing. Certainly, if we had an enemy out here, we could change the size of it with this, and it actually would be larger or smaller in the game. So. Super important to understand the relationship between the scene tab, the game tab, the hierarchy tab, where it lists all of the things that are in our scene, and the inspector tab, where it shows the details for any particular item, any particular game object from the hierarchy that's in our scene. So we can see all its details here. Other than that, you're going to want to know about the project tab and the console tab. Super, super, super important, these. The project tab basically is just showing you a window of what's on your hard drive. Here we have the assets folder, and you can see we have a folder called scenes in it. And inside the scenes, you can see we have a file. This is the sample scene. It's named sample scene, but that's the file name. So I can actually just right-click on my assets folder here and reveal it in Finder, or if you're on Windows, it'll say Show in Explorer, and this will pop up right here. This is actually just my Mac's file explorer here, and here's the assets folder. If I go up a level, I can see that I'm inside my Unity projects folder, and here is my Will Dawson Fireball project. If I double-click into there, here's all the files that Unity wrote to my hard drive when I created this new Unity project. So over here in Unity, you can see that we're looking in the assets folder and there's the scenes. So if I look here, here's my assets folder and there's a scenes, and you can see inside the scenes folder we have our sample scene .unity. This file is what actually stores the positions of all our things over here. This is where it would be very easy to add things to your scene. If you have 3D models, if you have graphics, if you have code that you're bringing from somewhere else, you can just drop those files into your assets folder. Right here. A lot of the time, the computer will let you just drag stuff out of a folder into the Unity's project tab, and you can just drop stuff here. I have found that it is a little bit more reliable to just move things into the assets folder in your Windows Explorer or in your Mac Finder window here. And then when you pop back over to Unity, it will realize there's some things there. It'll do a little processing, and I kind of have found that that's the most reliable way to do that. Don't worry about how and why you would do that. We will be walking through that as we go. The console tab is super important because this is where you are going to get a readout of errors and other similar kinds of messages from Unity itself. So if you have problems in your game, this is where it's going to tell you about that and give you lots of useful information that you'll need to help figure out how to fix those. So I'm pretty sure that is everything you need to know about where things are in order to get us started with some basic move-ins. So yeah, definitely refer back to this. Oh, I didn't talk about the asset store. The asset store tab, it's going to connect here. I do believe we have some sort of a loading error. This should be a lot prettier than this. Let's reload that. Doesn't want to reload that. In general, when you pop open your asset store, it will look like a website, and you can purchase really, really, really nice assets. You can purchase pre-made characters, whole game systems, player controller, all kinds of crazy stuff is available in the asset store. There's also a lot of tutorials available there. There's a lot of free assets. Unity provides a lot of stuff that you would be able to download from the asset store. If you are in my class, we do not have access through our network to get to the asset store. So this is not going to be available to us. I'm going to be sending out whatever assets we use through Dropbox, Google Drive, something, and we'll work with those, import them by hand as opposed to just downloading them straight into our project from Unity's asset store. But yeah, so that's pretty much what you need to know at this point as far as where and what all of these tabs are. More to come as we need it.